It was certainly no ordinary day for the science team in the desert. Chief Scientist Arthur noticed something stunning during a drone inspection. It was a ship in the middle of the desert. Mark and his entire team went to the ship, and once they arrived, they immediately went inside to inspect the ship. But little did they know that what they would find inside that ship would haunt everyone's lives. Arthur got into the ship and immediately got chills from how the ship looked like. He hasn't seen anything like this before. It was already weird that a ship could end up in this desert, but he could have never foreseen what he was about to discover. While he was walking through the corridors, he noticed that every door was barricaded, which was quite strange because why would all these doors be barricaded? Arthur didn't find the motive in why doing so. Maybe something dangerous would be behind those doors. Arthur focused on one door in particular. There was a large door that was barricaded with heavy steel pipes and had a large sign with a skull on it that stated, "Do not enter this room." But before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. When Arthur got with his team, they also reported that they were observing strange things happening on the ship. Everywhere you went, there was just this creepy vibe. Even some scientists claimed to have heard sounds coming from certain rooms. Everybody laughed because there could not be something living on this ship. Arthur agrees with his colleagues that it's indeed a spooky ship. He had never seen anything like this before, and how did it even get in the desert? Arthur just had so many questions which he wanted to answer. As they walked through the ship's corridors, everyone was silent because this ship really had a creepy vibe. Once arrived, everyone who looked at the door agreed that it appeared as if something significant was hidden inside. But then suddenly, something strange happened. There was a loud noise coming from that room. Arthur thought maybe there was a person inside that room. It would be very strange because it seemed like this ship had been here for decades. However, he needed to give it a shot, and he started shouting, "Is someone inside there?" He did this several times, but there was no response. Arthur repeated himself several times, but there was no response. It didn't really sound like a person, but it was something otherworldly that came through clearly of the loud noise coming from that room. Arthur couldn't resist and had to know what was in there, so he decided to force the door open. Arthur tried to kick the door open with all the strength he had. Bang! 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 Then another researcher took over kicking. Bang! 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 Unfortunately, even with all the hard work of the explorers, they couldn't get the door open by kicking it. They had to use a tool to open that massive door. Arthur and his team went searching for a tool that could help them to force that door open. Arthur rushed to every room and searched for something he could use. After searching for 30 minutes, he finally found it. Arthur saw a crowbar lying in the corner of a room, and he knew this crowbar helped him to open that door. Arthur rushed back to the door out of sheer excitement. With all his might, Arthur pressed the crowbar against the door, but it just wouldn't work. Then suddenly they heard the loud sound again. What the heck is behind that door? Arthur was determined to find out what was behind that door. We need to get some tools from the base camp and then return. To avoid getting lost the next time they returned, Arthur and his team marked several of the corridors as they made their way back to the helicopter. As they flew back to base camp, Arthur could think of nothing but that room. During the flight, Arthur and his crew were debating what might be in that room. Because it's not something small, several people speculated that it might be a human. As Arthur lay in bed, he just couldn't fall asleep. That door was burned into his memory, and he couldn't think of anything else. Maybe something had already been written about the ship on the internet. Arthur quickly grabbed his laptop and started searching on the internet. He opened his laptop and began looking for a deserted ship that had gone missing. Time flew by as he spent nearly an hour of searching. Then all of a sudden, he discovered something on the internet. Someone had written something about the shipwreck. A famous researcher he knew, named James, mentioned something about a ship in the desert, and it was the exact same location as where Arthur is now. Unfortunately, the content was censored, so there wasn't much written about it. However, Arthur had his connections in the research world. So let's have some phone calls, he thought. Arthur called a good colleague of his with which he did many discoveries with. He knew that this friend had even more connections than Arthur, so he might have James's number. Arthur gave him a call and explained the situation, and it turned out that he had the phone number of scientist James. Arthur glowed with energy. He keyed in the numbers on his phone, and yes, the phone rang. It took a few seconds when Arthur heard a voice. "Hello, who is this?" Arthur explained to James why he was calling. He explained that he had discovered the ship today and told everything about the mysterious room where all the noise was coming from. Arthur noticed that James was acting a bit shadowy and paranoid. James told Arthur not to go back. It will follow him forever and destroy his life. James asked if Arthur could promise him that he would not go back to that ship. Arthur was very surprised by this weird conversation and asked why he could not go back to that ship. Then James said, "That ship is haunted. I can't say anything more about it. It turned my life upside down. I'm in a care home now. Just promise me you won't go back. I have to hang up. Bye." Arthur felt weird about the conversation, and he was also a little bit frightened of all the things James was saying. What should Arthur do now? Arthur decided not to take James's advice. Arthur is a research scientist, and maybe this could be the discovery of a lifetime. Arthur woke up even before his alarm went off. He went to the dining area where all his fellow staff workers were already having breakfast. As they walked to the helicopter, everyone on the team was excited to return to the ship. Arthur felt a double-sided from the conversation he had with James. Arthur decided to still keep it a secret and stepped on board of the helicopter. While they were flying to the desert, Arthur kept thinking about what could be in that room. They arrived at the ship after almost an hour of flying. They knew they were prepared this time because with those tools, they would surely be able to force that door open. Everyone was excited to find out what was in that room. As Arthur and his team walked through the corridors, everyone looked into each other's eyes and was shocked to see how this ship looked like now. They all noticed something different from the last time they were there. Some doors that were also barricaded were no longer barricaded. This was very strange because those doors did not unlock themselves. Someone must have done this, but who? However, Arthur was persistent about this ship and he said, "We can be famous, guys. This could be our discovery of a lifetime, and we would be forever known as the famous explorers who discovered the most bizarre thing of centuries. We have to continue." It took a while, but eventually, everybody agreed to continue. So let's go to the particular room. And when they arrived, he saw that the door was still barricaded. The team immediately sprang into action and set the right tool set so they could force that door open. Then they started drilling, and immediately they heard that loud noise. They continued drilling. They kept hearing that noise over and over. It seemed like something didn't want that they would force that door open. Then finally, after some hard drilling work, the door fell open. Arthur slowly approached the room and used his flashlight to observe the room. And then suddenly, something large sprinted away. Arthur saw that behind that door, there were other corridors, which seemed strange to him because he thought it would only be one room. But he could clearly see something running away, so he was able to follow it. Then when Arthur came closer, he got a good look at what it could be. It seemed like a person. So Arthur shouted, "Stop, stop, stop!" He or she didn't listen and just kept running away, so Arthur gave his last glimpse of the energy and sprinted as fast as he could. Arthur got close and immediately jumped on the person. He or she resisted violently, and Arthur smelled an awful smell coming from this person. Then Arthur controlled the person, and when he turned around to see the person's face, Arthur was shocked. It was the scientist who talked about the ship on the internet. Arthur was so confused about what this famous scientist was still doing here. The post on the internet was from years ago, so has he been on this ship for years? Researcher James fell in love with this ghost ship and did not want to return to civilization. Arthur asked to return with him, but James did not want to. James also did not want Arthur to reveal this to the world, and Arthur respected this and agreed not to tell anyone about it. Arthur and his team left the ship, and they were all disappointed that this discovery was not the discovery of their lifetime.